Greetings. Thanks for joining me again for another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. I'm doing the new releases this week for June 9th, 2023. And what can I tell you about what's going on in the store except we're trying to keep the smoke out on the street. Um, Canadian wildfires have been raging, and the smoke has drifted into the Northeast and created a little bit of a cigar lounge situation. What I saw this morning, it said like the air is so thick that it's like smoking 7 cigarettes a day. So I guess I'm finally getting my taste of that. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll try to get through this report without choking on you, give you the new releases, and then at the end, give you a little bit of like a recommend. So, as I've been doing lately. Okay, so let's just plow right in. First thing this week, Jason Isbell in the 400 unit with Weather Vanes. Jason, fantastic artist, got his break sort of in the Drive-By Truckers, and then sort of went solo with his own band. Great singer-songwriter, Americana. His wife Amanda Shires and he were both Record Store Day ambassadors this year. And his last studio album, other than the Georgia Blue thing that he put out for Record Store Day, which was a kind of cover of Georgia artists, was Reunions. That came out a month or two into the pandemic, 2020. So it's been like 3 years, and that album was very well received, and I think because he put himself out there and released that album, even though it was tough kind of promoting it at the time. So anyway, hoping for great things with this album. It is on natural vinyl for the indie store exclusive. I'm assuming that's whatever color you happen to be. I don't know. I don't want to touch that one, but I'm assuming it's a beige color. And then it says, I love on this sticker, this is one of the best things I've seen lately. Life and death songs played for and by grown ass people. It actually says that on there. So gotta love Jason. Okay, he's great. Okay, you don't have to love Jason. Next up, another one of my favorite sort of Americana type indie artists. I don't know if she'd want to be called that. Modern pop rock artist Jenny Lewis, Joyall, former member of Rilo Kiley and former child star, and she just keeps cranking out great records. I've done really well trying to stay away from all of the clips on this, so I have no idea what it sounds like yet, although I figure I can kind of deduce a little from this cover art. It's a little like I don't know, Stevie Nicks meets Dusty Springfield meets Loretta Lynn. It's a little of all of that. But anyway, it says this fifth solo album from celebrated songwriter featuring Puppy and a Truck and Psychos. Indie exclusive green vinyl. I love the back art too. Her last album was just great. I mean, I've liked all of her stuff generally, but that one really won me over. Another artist that I love, and I'm curious about this record, is Janelle Monáe, The Age of Pleasure. And Janelle sort of got her start doing the Arcandroid, which was a soul, jazz, funk, American songbook, hip hop hybrid, sort of. And it was really interesting stuff. And then she kind of started backing away from it on her last record, Dirty Computer. That was 5 years ago, if you can believe that. And she's had an amazing movie career recently. Glass Onion, she was in that film, which was, she had a very pivotal role in that film. That was a pretty big film starring James Bond, basically, Daniel Craig. So anyway, and I recommend that movie if you want a good sort of summer escape movie, but it's been out for a little while. But anyway, I'm interested to hear what she does with this. She's gone more of a island route, sort of, and very summery, and kind of gotten away from that whole sci-fi theme, which maybe she just needs a break from it. But I'm really hoping that she gets back to it, because I did love that. This is on Orange Crush vinyl. It does feature little cameos from Sean Cootie and Grace Jones, among a few others. So I don't know. I don't know how like hoochie it is. I saw one video and I was like, whoa. And then the CD cover is her swimming between the legs of these guys, and she's obviously topless, and they've put a sticker over the bosom area. I keep saying she also, but she's also a they now, so I need to be careful of that. I'm learning. I'm learning. All right. Same thing with well, we'll get to her in a minute. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Squid. Oh, Monolith. Squid's great indie rock band. Get compared a little bit to like Black Country New Road, the band that I have their latest record right here. But Squid, very adept musically, and a lot of shifting rhythms and instrumentation. The last song on this album is called If You Had Seen the Bull's Swimming Attempts, You Would Have Stayed Away. Another great song title. So if you're interested, go check out Squid. Let's see, Death Cab for Cutie, Acoustic Meadows. This is the acoustic version, or I said Asphalt Meadows acoustic. It's the acoustic version of their last album, Asphalt Meadows, which I thought was probably one of their best recent records that they'd had out. So best in a while, actually. So be cool to hear it acoustic. One thing that's come out this week that I know some people are looking forward to, and they really kind of, I don't know if it's Rhino or who, but they sort of have, I would say, committed a shortfall on supplying this. So if you don't get it right away, keep your feelers out there and come grab it when it shows up again. We really didn't get enough of these. This is Alice Cooper School's Out. It's kind of a box set, not really. I mean, it's like a 3-record set. It's got 2 records of live shows and single versions and alternate takes, and of course the album itself. Let's see, it's it also, this one has the panties in it on the record if you're really like wanting that. I don't know what sort of damage it does to a record, but I don't know, they usually put those things in plastic. The other one that's out is Kill, which is probably regarded as one of Alice's best, I would say. Early record, 1970, I think. School's Out was 72. Oh, this is 71. I was going to say Alice fans would probably know better. And again, you get a 3-record set. And this one has some live stuff also and bonus tracks. So those are the vinyl versions. The CD versions, they haven't sent Killer yet. I ordered it weeks ago, so I don't know what's going on with that. And School's Out did come in, but only a few of them. And then I went to order more, and they were out of them already. So we'll see what happens there. So all I'm saying is, if you don't see it right away, don't worry, because I don't think that they're incredibly limited. But at the same time, it seems like they just didn't put enough of them out. Like they kind of pick these release dates and then they're sort of unprepared for the demand. So anyway, Tears for Fears, The Hurting. This is a half-speed master edition, different cover than the American cover. This is what the original British cover. Let's see, it says, this process results in cuts that have superior high frequency response in the treble and very solid and stable stereo images. In short, a very high quality master that helps to create a very high quality record. Well, there's a lot of varies, but I'm sure it sounds great. And this, if it's not like my favorite Tears for Fears album, and it might be, this is the first album of theirs I ever heard and bought, and it sort of blew me away as a kid, and I stuck with them, and I still like them. So anyway, if you want a superior sounding version of that, there you go. Not on CD, of course, because it's half-speed mastering, I guess. So another interesting reissue series that's been going on, and now they're out on tour, is Love and Rockets. and this is their album Sweet F.A. I think they sort of went out on tour because Bauhaus couldn't because Peter Murphy was having problems, and so they were like, well, the other three of us have our lives in order and we can get out there and do it. So um, I love a lot of Love and Rockets stuff. I think it's great. This was a really good album of theirs from the 90s. And it does have the song Sweet Lover Hangover, I think. Yeah, that was the single from it. Wasn't a huge hit. That was sort of like what 1989 when So Alive came out. But this does have a few extra tracks. First time on vinyl, expanded with 4 previously unreleased tracks, including My Dark Twin. So this has, what, 18 tracks on it. Another record from about the same time was Hot Trip to Heaven. This was Love and Rockets, sort of going techno at the time, expanded with 3 tracks back in print after 25 years. So I guess this had not been on, it had been on vinyl at one point. But yeah, this came out, what, mid 90s, I think, or late 90s. 25 years. It could be like 97, 98. This was a very kind of odd, dreamy album for them. I remember the first track being like 10 minutes long and it just kind of hangs there. And it was very polarizing among the fans. They're like, what are they doing? Yes. Oh, Body and Soul was the name of that song. But if you like Love and Rockets and you followed their career, I did. And then they also put out this CD called My Dark Twin, which is sort of a companion piece to Sweet FA. It says these are the Sweet FA sessions. It's 22 track double CD, including eight or not, I can't read that, 8 previously unreleased versions and 6 unreleased songs from the sessions. I don't know if people realize, but this image on the cover, that was the guitar that was recovered from the studio, which was their guitar that they were using on this album. That I think it was maybe Rick Rubin's studio, something to do with American Recordings or Def Jam, whatever that label was that Rick Rubin had at the time, which they were signed to, and the studio burned down and all their equipment burned down. So with it, so that was sort of where that image came from. Another cool reissue, Prince Gold Experience. Now this did come out on Record Store Day last year, but it was the promo version with the promo cover that had like the big symbol on it, and then on the back it had a whole bunch of writing. And this is the original album cover with the track listing printed, and also the Prince image saying gold. And it's a great album for me. I think it's his best album of the 90s, even though I do really like Diamonds and Pearls and the Symbol, Love Symbol album. This one's probably my favorite. It's a little more of a rocky album, and the big hit here was The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. I think I talked about that a lot on a video last year, so I won't belabor it. But I will say, Prince people, where are the box sets and the unreleased material that you keep promising? There's so much stuff that it's supposedly on the way, so they're keeping us in suspense. Niall Horan, The Show. This is Niall's new record. He is erstwhile of One Direction, so not as big a name as Harry Styles, but people love him. So, new Niall album. Milky Chance, another sort of indie rock band that kind of broke out a few years ago, and yeah, they've got their following. This is a limited edition blue vinyl edition. I should have said the Niall, it seems to be, oh, it includes a handwritten letter print. So, not really a signature, but a print. Well, at least they're telling you. Christine and the Queens. This is their, I want to say her, but their recent album. And I'm not exactly, I think she's going by they now. Um, I'm trying to keep up with all of the changes, but anyway, this is I don't know if this is the full record. There's a couple of different editions of this. This may be the highlights one. Oh, it is highlights. So this is already like $30, and I think it maybe has like 10 tracks, 9 or 10. And then there's a version that has like double the amount of tracks, but it's like super expensive. And I think that might be sort of, she's taking that, or they're taking that Madonna approach, like Rebel Heart, where there were like multiple editions of it. And the CD is the same way as well. Like the Janelle Monáe, there's a sticker across certain sensitive body parts, I guess. But yeah, so got to keep the big box stores happy with that. Youth Lagoon, another indie rock band. Heaven is a Junkyard. Or Heaven, yep. And this is ultra clear vinyl, first pressing. Youth Lagoon, pretty popular indie rock stuff. I love this woman's voice, Suzanne Sunfer. I think that's how you say that. And this album is called Blow Me, which is sounds terrible in English, but it's I guess the Norwegian word for bloom. And she has just the most incredible voice. I've thought that for years. And she's done a lot of guest work on other people's albums, Roy Xopp. Um, she's had albums of her own that have been very electronic based, earlier ones, and the last couple albums have been much more organic sounding. This one, I was sampling little bits of it because it was sort of being critically acclaimed, and it compared her to sort of Laura Nyro. And I kind of can sense that, where it's got more of a jazzier sort of feel, and she kind of does some spoken word stuff. And yeah, it's a very interesting album. Certainly not one that's like swinging for the pop charts necessarily, but if you want to check out a cool artist that you haven't heard before, she's very interesting. The Dead Milkmen are making a return appearance. Quaker City Quiet Pills, Philadelphia based, I believe. So it's been a while since we had Dead Milkmen, well, at least a few years. Let's see, the first song, I mean, they're always kind of very humorous. First song on here is called Grandpa's Not a Racist, He Just Voted for One. Second song, Philadelphia Femdom. Let's see, what else do we get? We have always lived in the compound. We are clearly not the master race. How do you even manage to exist? That one I can't say. Let's see. Anyway, you kind of get the picture. Humorous indie rock at its best. Okay, Extreme. Well, you might remember these guys as the More Than Words guys, and this is an actual new record from them called Six. It's been a while. I think it does feature the original artist, and it's produced by Nuno Betancourt. So if you liked Extreme, I mean, they were fine. Just they kind of like, went their separate ways, did other things. I think everyone was waiting for More Than Words Part 2, and that didn't really. Hole in My Heart was, I think, a single after that didn't quite do the same thing. James, Be Opened by the Wonderful, 40 Years Orchestral. James, great UK band. I think I read somewhere that they picked their name because of things like the Smiths, that they were sort of like, oh, let's just go with a very kind of could be someone's last name type album or something, or name. But I think Sit Down is probably James' most famous in England, and that's on here. And Laid is their most famous in America, and that's on here too. This Bed is on Fire with Passionate Love. She only when she's on top. Yeah, that's this, and it's a white double vinyl. So I love James. I think they're great. Okay. So there wasn't a lot of jazz this week. You're not seeing me scream out the name Kevin Gray a lot. But there are two records that came out on the Verve by Request series. One is Eartha Kitt. They're going a little more like they're paying attention to the women this month. Good. These are always pressed at Third Man in Detroit, and audiophile type pressings is what they consider these. And Verve by Request, Eartha Kitt. I mean, how often do you see good copies of Eartha Kitt out there? And what a voice and what a person she was. And let's see, this features Love for Sale, Whatever Lola Wants, her version of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. So pretty cool. The other one that is a sort of underrated jazz artist is Blossom Dearie. And this album features Lover Man, Oh Where Can You Be? Thou Swell, It Might As Well Be Spring. Fine Spring Morning. Yeah. She has a lot of connections to like Parisian jazz and stuff like that. So anyway, those are pretty cool. I'm glad to see them out and give the women a little respect there. Okay, shifting gears, hip hop. Lil Wayne, the Carter Three. This picture is great. This was a massive album when it came out around the turn of the 2000s, right? 2003. Featured Jay-Z, T-Pain, Babyface, Robin Thicke, Bobby Valentino. That's a name I haven't seen in a while. Busta Rhymes, Jules Santana, and Fabulous. Yeah, so Lil Wayne. Let's see. We got Madlib, Greetings from Nittyville. This is actually a special sort of indie pressing. It's like a different color. It's very heavyweight too. So I'm wondering, there's probably it looks like there's probably some kind of I don't know if it might be double vinyl actually. I don't know if there's any special artwork in there, but it's probably something like that, or at least color. I'm not sure. Charlie Puth, 9-track Mind. I think this was, if not the first Charlie album, yeah, it was the first one. I thought I remembered this cover from a few years ago. Includes the hit single "See You Again" from Furious 5, Marvin Gaye, and "One Call Away." I think this was kind of the album that put Charlie on the map. But you know, it's funny because it came out 2016, like in the era. There's a Selena Gomez track on there too. In the era when vinyl was still kind of growing, so that's why this wasn't really. I don't know if I ever saw it. I'm sure it was probably out there at some point. Megan Trainor is on it. Anyway, for some of you, it might be like a flashback, I guess. Hayes Carl, the Alone Together sessions. Alone Together, I think that was an album of his. So these are sort of sessions from that, featuring Allison Moore, who Hayes is now married to after she broke up with Steve Earle. And there's also a track called Drunken Poet's Dream featuring Ray Wiley Hubbard. A lot of people I know love that guy. So another reissue, Lucinda Williams, Happy Woman Blues. This has been out, I think, in other forms and other graphics. This is a British pressing on Floating World Records, licensed from Smithsonian Folkways. If for some reason this runs out, I think there are other editions of that out there too. I don't know what makes one better over the other, if it's something to do with the pressing or the mastering. I really don't know. There's no sticker on it to tell you. It doesn't even say where it's made, but maybe England, because it's a British company. And another hip hop release, Freddie Gibbs. This is his last record, Soul Sold Separately. This featured people like Pusha T, Anderson .Paak, Kelly Price, Rick Ross, and more. It did pretty well. It wasn't like a massive seller, but offsets on it too. Anyway, Let's see. I just realized I didn't grab. There were a couple of things by Corrosion of Conformity and Matt and Kim that also were reissues, Record Store Day Essentials that came in, and there was also maybe a Paul Simon. There Goes Ryman Simon, I think. So I'll just mention those. But if you come to the store, you'll see them. I can't get everything in the videos. It's a lot. I mean, here I'm at 25 minutes already, and oh, vey. And a CD I have, Simply Red Time. Don't have a vinyl for it, but can probably be ordered, I suppose. This features a song called Slap Bang, because every time I think of Simply Red, I go, oh yeah, Slap Bang. I don't know. All right. So the album that I wanted to review this week, or mention as a recommend, because I'm trying to kind of do these and kind of give a personal feeling about why I like these so much. This week I am choosing Cocteau Twins, and I'm choosing the album Bluebell Knoll. And I think a lot of people lean heavily towards either Treasure, which was sort of the earlier masterpiece, or Heaven or Las Vegas, which was the masterpiece that came right after this. Well, this is sort of the masterpiece in the middle, and it doesn't get talked about as much as either of those albums, and I'm really not sure why, because I find it to be a masterpiece. And at this point, Cocteau Twins were really sort of in flux as far as their career. They were sort of in ascendancy. And to describe Cocteau Twins to someone who hasn't heard them, where do I begin? I mean, you could sort of point out like Susie and the Banshees, Kate Bush. Those as kind of like touchstones of like where the influences came from. But they were a Scottish trio for most of the career. And Liz Fraser's vocalizing is very interesting because you're transported into a voice that is otherworldly. It is unlike any other voice that you have ever heard or you will ever hear. And it's just super unique. She does not sing in a discernible language. So you know, if you have trouble with like foreign languages, I don't know if I would recommend Cocteau Twins necessarily. But it's not even a foreign language. It's almost like a made up language. And I don't know how she kind of came up with this stuff. She's very private and doesn't disclose a lot of information about that. If you've ever heard the theme from the TV show House that she did Teardrop with Massive Attack, you'll know the voice from that, although I think they use an instrumental version as the theme of the show. And that actually has slightly more discernible English. And once in a while, she does slip into more English tendencies, especially the album Four Calendar Cafe that came 2 records after this and after Heaven or Las Vegas. And it was the last album they did before their final album, Milk and Kisses. But Liz and the guitarist Robin, and both songwriters, were a couple and had a very messy breakup at the end. And when they broke up, the band ended. And that was in 96, 97. And they have not recorded together since. They did actually collect some kind of an award together at a ceremony about a year and a half ago, maybe. And that was like the first time that I think I've ever seen them together since 97 in any way, shape, or form. They did have a child together, and she would be in her mid-late 20s now. So anyway, or maybe even about 30. Liz has gone on to do things with other people. Robin has done solo career, and the other guy, Simon Raymond, is the head of Bella Union Records and is an artist in his own right and does all sorts of things on the side. But I'm here to talk quickly about Bluebell Knoll. So the albums before this, and they'd done a lot of EPs too, were kind of sort of goth inspired and a little bit dark, and usually dark, but her vocals just soar into the stratosphere, and sometimes they can sort of be kind of more like low range and naughty. It's almost like you're listening to three different singers, depending on what range she's singing in. The high range are just, they're angelic in a way. And this album features a lot of that sort of singing, I think. It's still indie rock sort of bass. There's a lot of reverb on the guitars. They use a lot of drum machine because they didn't technically have a drummer. But anyway, it starts with the title track, and it has this sort of very piercing harpsichord kind of noise, and then her voice just sort of unfurls after that, and it's sort of followed by kind of a more mellow track, Athelbros, and then the third track, Carolyn's Fingers, is the most sort of like modern rocky sounding of the time, I suppose. But the significance of this album was they had been on 4AD Records, which has now turned into like a major industry type label, even though it's still kind of considered an indie label. And this was their jump over to Capitol in the US. So at the time, people were like, "Oh, they're selling out, and it's more commercial." And it's like that. It's about as uncommercial of a commercial album that you could ever hear if you consider that commercial. You're still listening to vocals in these bizarre languages. Not bizarre, but it's almost like made up. Like it's just so stream of consciousness. I guess she probably would vocalize depending on how the music moved her, and then they would save that to tape, and then that would be sort of worked out. And I saw them live once, and that's an experience that I'll share for another video sometime. Wasn't necessarily the best experience. I still love them. So, and it's nothing to do with necessarily my personal. So it was more like what was going on in the band at the time. Obviously, there was some some disgruntled feelings. But anyway, so this album, 10 tracks. Each one is sort of a brief between 3 and 4, maybe 5 minutes tops. Actually, I think they all kind of hit around 3 to 4 though on this album, and there's some really glorious stuff. The last couple of tracks, and they use weird song titles. I say weird because they're not typical. Kissed Out Red, Float Boat, and Ella Megalast, Burls Forever are fantastic, sort of like just sonic creations that nobody else was doing like that at the time. You could maybe say like, well, Susie and The Cure kind of were, but they weren't singing like that necessarily. And one track that a lot of people seem to like is The Itchy Globo Blow, which is in the middle of the album, and that's kind of a darker sort of tone. So anyway, I would say it's a good album to sort of start with, either that or Heaven or Las Vegas, and then sort of branch out from there, or listen to both of them. They're not that long albums, and I think people would sort of open their minds to a lot of kind of music that maybe they would not have normally been drawn to. And there's so much like attention to vocals and lyrics in a lot of our music right now, like, oh, what are they saying? And I think it's definitely got its place. But if you want something that just sort of almost frees your mind and takes it away from specificity of situations and things like that, this is incredible artistry here. And I like almost liken it akin to sort of ambient music of things like Brian Eno and stuff, in that sense, where it's more about the feelings in the room than it is about what specifically is being said. And it just proves that music is it's a universal language. And it might
it's interesting how this is kind of resonated with young people. I mean, they're discovering it the way that people always discover music, and it has a lasting quality for that. Even Miley Cyrus covered the title track from Heaven or Las Vegas at a recent show in Las Vegas, and while I didn't think it was that successful because she didn't really like capture Liz's vocal quality, and the audience was sort of confused. But it was, interesting that she would do that. I just want to mention too briefly that Liz Fraser is still recording, or just kind of not, I can't say still, but just last year released this EP under the name Sun's Signature, which we still have a couple of copies of, surprisingly. It was 5 tracks. They were fairly, well, 4 of them are fairly long. But my initial impression of this was to just sit in a corner and kind of shrivel and weep because it was so beautiful. And she's singing a little differently on this because it's 20, well, from this, it's like 35 years down the road. And some of these tracks were recorded years ago, and they were just kind of collected for this. But things like Blue Dusk have this kind of neat sort of Renaissance feel to them, where there's like maybe oboes and stuff in the mix. But it's just so it's a lighter sounding vocal, almost like she has kind of purged some of the anger that she had in Cocteau Twins there at the end, and tried to sort of create something new. And I hope that there's more Sun Signature to come. I don't know. There's nothing apparently on the schedule, which wouldn't surprise me. She's not really in a rush. She does a lot of singing with Massive Attack now, as a touring vocalist, and she's appeared on at least one of their albums quite significantly. So, and is married, not married, but I'm not sure if they're married, but she's linked to a band member in a relationship. So that's sort of the connection there. But talk about singular artistry, and they're so incredibly missed, I think, for me anyway. And so I always go back to all of these old Cocteau Twins records and listen to what was really a unique place and time in trying to develop a certain artistic language that nobody else has really quite achieved in that sort of zone. There are other artists out there that are quite good now, or interesting, that are doing their own thing. So it's not necessarily like nobody will ever do this again, but they were very unique. So uh, check out Bluebell Knoll. All right, thank you, and have a great weekend. Try to breathe safely. I think some of the smoke will be lifting here within 24 hours or so, and hopefully not choking out other parts of the country. So be safe. Don't do too much outside. Take it easy. And thank you guys. Peace.